Now, when we were reading about IMCE on the IMCE project page, it indicated that we could set certain restrictions per role. For example, we could set the maximum size of file that was allowed and set directories that they could use. So my guess is that these profiles have something to do with those restrictions. Let's go ahead and take a look at these settings from top to bottom. We have the profile name, which is user1 in this case. We have the ability to import settings from other profiles, and we have one other profile set right now called sample profile. This says display file browser tab in user profile pages. Now we'll explore this in a moment, but what this means is that when a user goes to their page, and this is checked, and the user has the right permissions, then they'll see a new tab that allows them to manage assets on their account page. We have maximum file size per upload and set to 0 to use the maximum value available, which is set in the PHP settings for your server. So this is set to 0. Directory quota, which is how much space files can take up in a particular directory. Again, 0 is set to the maximum available. Total user quota is how much space all of the files are that have been uploaded by this particular user. And we can set this to a limited amount, but it's set to 0, again for the maximum amount. I'm going to go ahead and scroll down. Under permitted file extensions, it's a star, which says that you can set it to star to remove this restriction, but otherwise you can specify the allowed extensions to use, and you separate them with a space and don't add a dot. We'll look at a more restrictive use of this input in just a moment. Maximum image resolution is width by height here, and this is how big an image can be that's been uploaded. If it's bigger, it says that it will scale it back down. And then maximum number of files per operations. So it says you can select multiple files for certain operations like delete and resizing, but because this takes a good amount of processing power, you may want to restrict the number of files that a single user can process this way at a time. For this user, it's set to 0, which removes the restriction. Okay, I'm going to scroll down. Now here we have a set of directories. And if you read the description here, it says define directories that users of this profile can access. So we can set users of this role to be able to access a particular directory and users of a different role to access a different directory. In this case, it's saying that the user can access any directory because it's using a dot, which if you read here says that it specifies the system root, and including subdirectories is checked, which means that they have access to all of the directories within the main file directory. Now this says root, but it doesn't mean root as in the very root of the file system altogether. It means the root of the file folder inside of the site's default folder. And then you can specify here what actions a user can take. For example, they can browse or view the images, they can upload new images, they can create thumbnail versions of the images, they can delete them or resize them. And notice we can set more than one directory. Now something else that's interesting about this is that you can use the UID as a placeholder or a token for the user ID. So for example, users/user and then the UID placeholder will create a directory that includes that user ID. So each user can also have their own directory, and even though we're creating a profile here for a role, we can still be user specific when we allow access to particular directories. Okay, let's go ahead and scroll down. There are some presets for creating thumbnails. Now we're not really going to use this feature so much, but it allows us to specify a name, dimensions, a prefix, and a suffix for the images. And we'll point out where this shows up in the interface as we work through it. Okay, let's go ahead and go back. Just in case we've made any changes accidentally, we want to keep it as is.